Have you ever been stuck in a cycle, going back to the same relationships, habits, or even a job that leaves you drained? You know they add nothing in your life, yet somehow you always seem to be returning, expecting things to be different. Why do we go back to empty wells, expecting them to fulfill us? Welcome to the weekly podcast coffee session, where we have real, honest conversations about breaking cycles, making better choices, and fulfilling our lives with what truly matters. And I'm your host, Toto Yende. In the next episode, we're going to be tackling the hard truth about empty wells. Why do we keep going back, and how to finally stop? If you're ready to challenge your thinking, reclaim your energy, and stop making choices that actually serve you, then this is the podcast for you. Subscribe to the weekly podcast wherever you get your podcast. Life is too short to stay thirsty. Good morning. Let's have coffee. Welcome back, everybody, to the weekly podcast coffee session, where we will be unpacking life's toughest questions over a good cup of coffee. And I'm your host, Toto Yende. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about something we all do, whether we realize it or not. We keep going back to empty wells. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm talking about the things in life that do absolutely nothing for us. Habits, people, places, even mindsets that we return to over and over, expecting something different, something better, but every time we come up dry. We've all been there, right? We've all gone back to something, even when we know it wasn't good for us. Maybe it's that one friend who only calls when they need something. Maybe it's that relationship you keep trying to fix, even though you're the only one doing the work. Or maybe it's that job that's crushing your soul, but you stay because it's comfortable, because leaving is scary. So why do we keep returning to things that drain us? And more importantly, how do we stop? Let's dive in. Let's take the moment to reflect on what an empty well is in your life. Think about it. Empty wells come in different forms, but they all have one thing in common. They promise fulfillment, but never actually deliver. For some, it's a toxic relationship. The one where you convinced yourself that if you love them enough, or if you try harder, they will change. But they don't. And every time you go back, it costs you a little more of yourself. For others, it's an old habit. Could be drinking, binge watching, scrolling, things that numb the discomfort temporarily, but never truly solve anything. You feel better for a moment, but emptier than before. Maybe it's that job that no longer serves you, but you stay because it feels safer than stepping into the unknown. Maybe it's a belief about yourself that you're not good enough and that you will never change. And that's probably what got you stuck. Whatever it is, I want you to name it. Say it out loud if you have to, because calling it what it is the first step to breaking free. So, why do we go back? Now that we know what empty wells are, let's talk about why we keep returning to them. The one big reason, familiarity. So familiarity. Our brains love patterns. Even if a situation is unhealthy, if it's what we're used to, we will keep repeating it. That is why people stay in toxic relationships or cling to bad habits, because breaking the cycle requires stepping into discomfort. And discomfort is scary. Another reason is hope. We tell ourselves that maybe this time it will be different. Maybe this time the relationship will work. Maybe this time we will be fulfilled. And maybe this time the job will get better, or that friend will change, or that bad habits will finally make me feel happy. And let's be real. Sometimes these wells give just enough for us to keep coming back. A kind word, a temporary win, or a fleeting moment of satisfaction. But it never lasts. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, the same principle that keeps gamblers glued to the slot machine. You lose over and over and over, but that one win you had convinces you to keep trying. The problem is, empty wells take more than they actually give. And the cost, it's not just your time, it's your energy, your confidence, your emotional health. Every time we return to something we know isn't good for us, we reinforce the belief that we don't deserve better. So how do we break free from this cycle? How do we stop returning to wells that have run dry? Number one, recognize the pattern. You can't fix what you don't acknowledge. Take an honest look at what is draining you. If you've gone back to something more than once despite knowing it wasn't good for you, it's time to call it what it is: an empty well. Number two, acknowledge the cost. Ask yourself, what's the cost of this well in my life? Could be your peace, your self-worth, or your ability to grow. Is it worth it? That's the question I ask. Because the truth is, the more you keep drinking from an empty well, the thirstier you will get. Number three, challenge the narrative. What story are you telling yourself about this well? Why do you need it? Maybe you believe you're not strong enough to walk away. Maybe you believe you won't find something better. But what if you could? What if leaving the empty well is exactly what opens the doors to something that actually nourishes you? Number four, dig new wells. If you're going to stop going back, you need new sources of fulfillment. That means healthier relationships, habits that build you up instead of numb you, a work that excites you, a mindset that empowers you. It takes time. I understand. It takes time. And digging new wells is hard, but I promise you, it's worth it. So, here's my personal reflection and challenge for us all. I want you to take the moment to reflect. What's that one empty well you keep returning to? And what would happen if today you decided to walk away? Imagine your life after breaking free. Imagine how much lighter you will feel. Imagine what your life could look like if you stopped pouring energy into something that will never pour back into you. This reminds me of a quote from Maya Angelou. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Now, we can apply this beyond just people. When a habit, a job, or a situation keeps showing you that it'll never give you what you really need, believe it the first time. Don't wait for it to change. Don't wait for it to become something it is not. Because here's the truth. We were never meant to live thirsty. Life is too short to keep drinking from places that leave us perched, that take more than they give, that convince us that we don't deserve more. Friends, you deserve more, and you always have. So today, I challenge you, Recognize the empty wells in your life and then walk away. If this episode resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with someone who you believe might really need to hear it. And if you've broken free from an empty well in your life before, in your own life, in your own way, I'd love to hear the story. Send me your message, leave a comment. Let's talk about it. Until next time, stay hydrated. Good morning. Let's have coffee.